All right, everybody, what's up? We got actually last week in Q3 got me to pondering a few things with some public companies, and it just so happened I'm also doing some prep for the Supply Side West speaking engagement that I have in November, and that's sort of surrounding sports nutrition 2020, the future of retailing, brand, just kind of a lot of different things that are going on change-wise in the nutritional supplement and sports nutrition industry. One of the big topics, retailers, is obviously GNC, and people ask a lot of questions. So I started to ponder what I'd like to see them do in the extreme kind of short term. So if you guys follow me on LinkedIn, you guys saw me do a small little post that was an intro to this topic, but like to cover it a little bit more for you guys. And I think a lot of people, when they saw that the Harbin Pharmaceutical transaction kind of got US approval, people kind of assumed everything was good. There was still some hurdles on the Chinese side that has to be approved for that $300 million transaction to go through. I believe that's going to be pretty easy for them because of the joint venture that they kind of created within the deal. I think they kind of already knew what the Chinese side was going to need, but with all the kind of trade talks, or whatever you guys want to label those as, there is some uncertainty, obviously, with any transaction between us and the Chinese right now. Even though they got that transaction, and there's obviously some more runway left with GNC if everything goes well, there's still some things that needs to be done for GNC to kind of clean up their balance sheet, not only kind of clean up their balance sheet, but also kind of look better to the investor community, which, if you guys follow that even at a small level, they've been one of the most shorted stocks in kind of a recent time period. So in my world, with like strategy as a strategy consultant, I always look at things either offensively or defensively, and I think with most like retailers that are kind of struggling in this quote unquote kind of like retail apocalypse, most of them are only looking on the defensive side. And what I've seen, time and time again with kind of retailers is that if they're only looking at the cost side and kind of cost cutting, those brands generally always kind of fall into like a bankruptcy kind of a situation. So I definitely don't suggest like GNC to go 100% defensive and cost cutting in their movements. So I'm going to talk about offensive, defensive, different things that they could do strategically to make their business a lot stronger. So kind of like first, we'll kind of cover the defensive side just to kind of get that one out of the way. And I'd like to see before the Q3 or at the Q3 earnings call, their C-suite, their CEO out there talking about type of a cost-cutting program or cost restructuring program. And I think you need to kind of focus on kind of several areas. One that's obviously always kind of considered in any type of cost-cutting environment is kind of the sales, general, and administrative, the SG&A account. And that has like a broad range of different things in it. I don't know GNC's business from the inside strong enough to suggest individual areas within that SG&A. I'd imagine any kind of large retailer probably does have some bloat in certain departments, specifically probably on the corporate side that they could probably cut. What I would say is that because GNC and any kind of retailer is focused a lot on e-commerce right now, you are going to have an element of SG&A that is going to go up. I do believe that GNC buckets the shipping costs in that. Obviously, as e-commerce sales go up, you're going to have a logistical cost that also goes up. Regardless of cuts, there's going to be a direct expense that's going to go up in relation to some of the efforts that they're making with e-commerce. And then on the other side, in kind of the one that is kind of touchy, is like a store optimization plan. And that is, they talked about this earlier in 2018 about closing, I believe, about a couple hundred locations. In some of the earlier videos that I made, I talked about how I didn't believe that was the end of kind of the store closings, and GNC needs to take a hard look at just their store list and mostly around their C kind of stores, their C rating stores, and they need to kind of take a look at evaluating them in a way that makes sense. The A stores, the B stores, those are obviously probably safe. The high performing franchise stores are going to continue. But these C stores need to be evaluated on kind of profitability, also the flexibility with kind of the real estate terms, and then just kind of also just like geographically, does it make sense to have a store close to another store? Does it make sense to have them in certain areas that maybe are contracting with different trends that are happening in kind of urban sprawls and different things? Does it make sense to have as much coverage in certain areas that have populations that are kind of more focused towards the metro areas? Those are all things that GNC kind of needs to look at from like a store optimization setting. Honestly, I think another 10% of stores could probably be cut, and it would not make GNC look bad overall. I mean, it's definitely going to hit the press, and anytime store closures happen, they're definitely going to throw that on the headlines because political reasons, all kinds of different things they could kind of throw at that. So GNC has to kind of tiptoe that a little bit more than other kind of defensive moves. But regardless, any kind of brick and mortar retailer needs to be looking at a store optimization plan at this point to understand both right now what they need to do to cost cut, and then kind of in the future, what's the plans with those stores? Is it micro shipping points? And if that's the plan, does it make sense to kind of keep certain stores? And you kind of have to look at this from both a short-term and a long-term perspective when you're looking at a store optimization plan. Now, like I said, I would not suggest GNC to kind of just throw out a defensive plan and just kind of say this is our path to success. We're going to be cost cutting. We're going to be closing stores. We're going to get back to a strong financial position because time and time again in the retail setting, that usually is kind of the start of the dying process. And my suggestion to GNC is you have some good things going for you offensively that you can really kind of focus on. And focus is kind of the big key here. With any retailer at this point, there's a lot of spaghetti getting thrown against the wall, trying to figure out what sticks. People are trying to figure out how do we compete in this new environment. But GNC has some good things going for them, and they need to focus on those good things. So what am I talking about here is, so first one, private label. Private label has been a monster for GNC for a long time. I think over 50% or close to 50% of the revenue comes from private label. So beef that up, create more. I've seen a lot of movement beyond raw. I know they have some like a Slim Vance. They have a lot of different things they're building. I would keep building private label. I think that is extremely intelligent for them to do that. Not only create brands that are kind of having the GNC name, but brands that don't look like GNC to kind of broaden the opportunity. You could take those off premise to other channels if you need to, and they'll play a lot better on an Amazon or on some other mass retailer or something if it's not called GNC. So that would be kind of my suggestion. But I think at this point, more and more private labels is a great move for GNC to do. Now, secondly, sign compelling exclusive deals. And I think kind of the cornerstone one that they can point to at this point is Ghost Lifestyle. They are doing a great job at adding the store element, the brick and mortar element to a digitally native brand. So they need to look at some other partnerships like that. Are there a lot of brands out there that have a similar business structure that Ghost does? Not really. There are a lot of brands that could be shifted or molded in a way to be a great exclusive partner for GNC. And I think those are the ones they need to kind of get out there, seek, find them early, and overly invest in those. So GNC's been kind of notorious with vendor relations and kind of always trying to keep leverage and trying to make sure their terms are perfect and kind of putting all the pressure on the brand or the vendor side. I'd say that you loosen those up, create a better environment, create a better relationship, get that old mentality away, and kind of start building with some new digitally native, strong, growing brands, and kind of ride those for every 3 to 5 years, switch them out, kind of keep those things fresh. Kind of go with an incubator mentality. GNC should create some type of element similar to that. You could have so many different ways you kind of structure that, but I think regardless, they need to start thinking about signing more compelling exclusive deals with brands that it makes sense. Not the biggest brands out there, but brands that need to have a physical presence to grow as fast as they have for their aspirations. I could think of a great brand, a good buddy of mine, the Genius brand, would probably do extremely well in a GNC. I don't know if he's thinking that way. I know he's thinking still Amazon, still direct to consumer, but I think that'd be a brand that would be great. I could think of a couple other ones off the top of my head, but that one just kind of came to me just because Robert and me talk, pretty frequently, and it's just one of those things where I think it's a natural fit. And the next one, the next kind of offensive move, one that has been another kind of monster with GNC lately, is growing like their international markets. So the Harbin Pharmaceutical joint venture helps them a ton in Asia, but they have very strong relationships in so many different kind of geographical areas internationally, and I think you have to keep growing those things extremely strong, figure out what works in each individual kind of market, and double down as hard as you can. Your growth is coming from that area. You have a really good profitability in those different areas. So in the last one, it's just an obvious kind of talk about like figuring out how to get the same store comps to at least flatline or grow a little bit. I would say that it's going to be extremely tough for a specialty retailer like GNC to figure that out. They can add value, and I can think of things that are going to help them maybe long term, but short term, and this is kind of, you got to figure out a plan short term to figure this equation out. And for a specialty retailer like GNC, I'm not exactly sure, how do you fix that same store comp? Just to kind of throw this on its head, I was reading an article recently, and I wholeheartedly agree with it, is a lot of these retailers are thinking too short-term with same-store comps. Same-store comps are going to be quickly replaced with what they call kind of like first product searches. So from an e-commerce perspective, and I think everybody agrees, especially in the category of nutritional supplements, digital is where a lot of the purchasing is going. So a brand like GNC needs to not so much focus on same-store comps within a retail environment, but think about first product searches. Where is somebody searching for a product first? Is it on GNC or GNC.com? Is that where they're going to go first? Or are they going to an Amazon.com, which at this point, that's where a lot of the product searches are happening. So whoever's getting the first product search is essentially a new age area of like locking in a customer. So GNC needs to focus on how do you get people to do first product searches for nutritional supplements. What is that thing that is going to bring people to GNC.com and lock them into GNC.com as their first product search? That would be the question that I would be trying to answer for this kind of comp question. It's not so much how do we fix the same store comps within our stores, because honestly, I don't know how to fix that short term. I don't think GNC knows how to fix that. I don't think the vast majority of brick and mortar retail industry, not only nutritional supplements, but all of it, I think they don't really know how to fix that right now. So let's try to solve a problem that can be answered, and that is this first product search. So if I was GNC, I'd be focusing a lot of my effort towards answering that question right now. So I think we'll wrap this topic up right there. There's probably going to be a lot more conversation about GNC. You guys know I'm pretty closely connected to just the nutritional supplement CPG world. A lot of my clients are in that world, but I also like to, kind of talk about, future things with GNC because they are a big piece of the current ecosystem within kind of the nutritional supplement industry. So I want to thank you guys for sticking around this long. If you guys have, make sure you guys are smashing the thumbs up button. If you guys have not done this so far, hit the subscribe button. Helps me out, helps you guys out, so it ensures you guys see all my newest content. And as always, the only thing I ask for you guys to return some value to me is make sure you guys are telling a friend, tell a colleague. I want to grow this community a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. Just want to thank you guys again for spending a little time with me, and I'll see you guys on the next one.